Is it better to diet on carbohydrates or fats? Let me explain. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Rebella from ProPhysique.com, and today we're going to break down the idea of dieting on a more carbocentric based diet or a more fat-centric based diet. And the question comes from my private support community that is a part of our Transformation Challenge. So if you're not a part of the Transformation Challenge, we do a support community. So I'm going to answer a bunch of questions in there. We will be having a new challenge right after the new year. And we do give away $25,000, and we give away tons of nutrition plans, training plans, and offer coaching with it. So just to be aware, I'll put a link below if you want to be notified of when that starts. So the question came from Mitchell, and it says, have you noticed any competitors that do better on fats than carbs? If so, is there a biological reason why it would be better rather than just food preference? So for those that aren't familiar, I coach a lot of people that do bodybuilding shows. I myself have done bodybuilding shows. So if you look at some of my competitors here, I've had a ton of success in the competition world. Like, my resume matches up with just about anybody's in the world. Tons of pro cards and Olympias and titles and all those things, right? But what it comes down to is after 15 years, you start to find your way as a coach looking through things. So what this person is asking is, what's better? A high carb diet when you're dieting or a high fat diet when you're dieting for fat loss? And I'll explain my reasoning behind this. And this is a part of understanding the physiology and the evidence-based approach to coaching, because I'm not trying to stand out from the crowd. I'm trying to get the best results I can for myself, for my athletes. And for this reason, I've experimented with a lot of different approaches. So let's talk about the evidence around both. What is the function of a carbohydrate? Because carbohydrates is the most kind of demonizing macronutrient. We all know that protein's good. Most of us know that fat is good, although there was a period in the 80s and 90s where everything was a low fat diet. We'll get into that. But carbohydrates have become kind of in vogue to kind of hate on, right?
Oh, carbohydrates, they spike your insulin. Oh no, insulin is the enemy.
No, it is not. Carbohydrates are exceptionally beneficial for muscle building. They're anabolic. They're also really exceptionally helpful in hormone production, specifically thyroid, which is the hormone that is responsible for your metabolism. So enjoy your zero carb diet, and by the end of it, you're going to have some real problems hormonally. Okay, so let's talk about where the truth lies. Fat loss is determined by calories taken in throughout the day versus how many calories you're burning. Okay, now there's a little bit of nuance to that, but you could eat only carbohydrates. In fact, you could eat only sugar. In fact, there have been people that have done things called the Twinkie diet, the McDonald's diet, where they only ate Twinkies, McDonald's, candy, and lost body fat, and all their health markers improved. Because why? Health markers improve based on body weight. So if you're able to lose body fat, everything is going to look better. The method that you use to get there, hey, that's on you. But you can use a low carb approach, a low fat approach, a low protein approach. You can, whatever you do, getting fat off for you is just a better place to be. But what I'm trying to do is optimize people to look the best they can look, especially with the competition. We're trying to keep muscle. Carbohydrates are highly anabolic. And in a fat loss phase, where you're starting to compromise your energy, you're starting to compromise some performance, you need carbohydrates to stay full, to keep those muscles performing so that you can look your best and feel your best. They're also beneficial psychologically. Anybody that's ever dieted before on a low carb approach or no carb approach, you'll notice that you really struggle with how you look and how you feel and how you perform. I noticed it the first time I dieted. When I would have multiple low carb days in a row and then go to the gym, my pump wouldn't be as good. I would start to feel kind of defeated. Then I would add in a couple high carb days and boom, you feel like a new person. Why? Carbohydrates store water in our muscle cells. They increase the volume of our muscle. So your muscles literally get bigger because carbohydrates pull the water into the muscle. So where should your carbohydrates be? This is called carbohydrate metabolism, and this number can vary quite a bit. And this is why, as a coach, I'm going to have a consultation and talk to you about what your preferences are, what your digestion is like, what your history with food is. But I'll tell you this. I find that most athletes are fine as long as their carbohydrates are at least as high as their body weight. Now, this doesn't equate for somebody that's, obese, BMI very high, off range. But if you're in decent shape and you're a 200-pound guy, 200 grams of carbs a day is going to support your brain function. It's going to support your training. And there may be periods where you have to increase or decrease, but that's where I say, okay, we're in a good spot. When I have somebody that comes to me, like a 200-pound guy, and they've been on like 80 or 100 grams of carbs for a while, I say, watch this. And we increase the carbohydrates and boom, you're going to see some big performance improvements. So with carbohydrates, what I really like to do is set the protein and the fat goal to where the evidence suggests they should be to get the proper support. Any extra calories that I can extract from them based on their metabolism, they're going to be carbohydrates. So a lot of people consider me a high carb coach. I just use the evidence around bodybuilding, physique enhancement, and what it has shown to improve body composition, psychological, physiological response to fat loss. So have I coached people that have been kind of on the lower carb end? Of course. But understand that to fill a muscle out, you need carbohydrates. So getting on a bodybuilding stage, at some point, you're going to look better with carbs. Okay? So yeah, I want to manipulate the carbs. And, there is a formula that I use for peaking an athlete for stage, for filling out. I did a video called Peak Week on my other channel. If you guys aren't following the Pro Physique Studio page, we post our podcast there, the Pro Physique Code. I also post more like contest prep content. I did a Peak Week video where I talked about the amount of carbs that you need to fill a person out is about 4 to 5 grams of carbs per pound of lean body mass. Now, that's not what you weigh, but let's say you weigh 200 pounds. That would put maybe for a good athlete, lean body mass, let's just say at 170. To fill this person's muscle stores out, we're talking 500-600 grams of carbohydrates over the course of a couple days to really be full. So this is where we can start to understand, and this comes from studies on endurance athletes, but we use this in bodybuilding terms as well. So what I'm trying to do with the bodybuilder getting on stage is bring the carbs up. Now we got to be depleted during prep. So what does that number look like for fats? Because fats have a different function. Carbohydrates are our body's preferred fuel source, okay? Also, our brain uses that fuel, okay? So when you're low carb, you're gonna feel it a little bit, multiple ways. Now fats, really, I'd like to start people at least around 25% of their total calories as fat. Now, that number might come down a little bit, but when we're talking about fat loss, the biggest fluctuation is gonna be in carbohydrates. Protein and fat are not gonna move a whole lot, right? They're gonna stay pretty still. So let's talk about what that number would look like. For men, I don't like to get below 50 to 60 grams of fat a day. So in what situation would I have somebody taking in more fat? The older we get, for men and women, the more we benefit from a little bit higher fat intake. When we take in nutritional fat, that creates the cascade of cholesterol that turns into the hormones in our body. You cannot replicate that. You need to take in fat to convert to, well, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all the things that make us awesome, okay? So if you're not taking in enough nutritional fat, it's gonna cause problems. As we get older, and I've noticed this as well, my fats are a little higher than they used to be. My carbs are a little bit lower. I'm still what I would consider carb-centric. I still take in a greater number of carbs, but fats have definitely come up as I've gotten older. I'm gonna be 50 this year, actually, in a couple days. So I've noticed that I benefit from a little higher fat diet. Where I will see people have struggles with carbohydrates is if they have food intolerances, allergies, which is very common. Okay, there are certain foods that some people don't digest well. And if you don't digest something well, it causes inflammation. If you're inflamed in your digestive system, a lot of those nutrients just pass right through you. They aren't absorbed properly. And you can get into a place where I've seen people switch to like a higher fat diet. All of a sudden they feel better. Why? They're absorbing the nutrients from their food better. Okay, it's not that it was no carb, it's that they needed fat. Are you aware that some vitamins and minerals are only fat soluble? That means they need fat to break down. So a lot of us that go low fat in our diets, and I've seen athletes that are getting ready for bodybuilding shows that have had a consult with me tell me they're on 10, 15 grams of fat a day. That is atrocious. That is a recipe for disaster. Okay, so the lowest I've ever really had my athletes, 35 grams of fat, 40 grams of fat. But that allows us to really manipulate optimal ranges for our protein, for our carbs, and our fats. And if you don't even know where to start for those, use my free calculator. I'll put it on the screen here. It'll set up your macros for you. But here's what I'll say. At the end of the day, calories are what matters. So let's say you're taking in 1,600 calories a day and you're getting 150 grams of carbs and you're getting only 45 grams of fat. If you were like, Coach, I really want more fats, and I was to say, hey, let's bump up your fats by 15 grams, fats being 9 calories per gram, then we could lower your carbs by 30 grams, which is 4 calories per gram. So that's calorically pretty close, right? But your calories would remain the same, but now your fats are 15 grams higher, your carbs are 30 grams lower, and you could see how you feel. And I do this all the time with my athletes. So yeah, it really comes down to the individual preference. But again, it's about the total calories for the day, how you're digesting, how you're enjoying it. Is it sustainable for you? I know some people that love eating carbs, 400 or 500 grams a day. I know some people that like to have 100 and 120 grams of fat a day and their carbs are a little bit lower. It's just about individual preferences. Both can work, but just understand that for your muscles to perform and look their best, carbohydrates are valuable. And I'm going to leave you with one line that I want you to think about for forever, because when I heard it, it stuck in my head. Fat burns in a carbohydrate flame. That's right. You want to burn fat? Keep carbs in your diet. All right, guys, hope you're enjoying the video. I'll talk to you tomorrow.